Right, well, this one came about because it's a company that basically collects waste paper, confidential paper, destroys it, then sells it on. And we were clearing out our office of all our old stuff, and we contracted them to do it. And the guy came down, and as we were doing it, we were just talking away. And I just asked him, I said, you according to your website, you've been in Barrow for 20 odd years. I said, I've never really heard of you as a business. And he said he bought it out about 10 years ago when it was in trouble. And I said, all right, you're doing well. And, we're going through various things like that. Just basically doing what I do best is just talking to people. Right. I must have said enough for him to go, well, I might need some support because we're changing some things. I said, I'll come and see you. So I went up to his office and he was there and his bookkeeper was there. And I just said, right, so what's the background? Why don't I know that you exist? And he said, well, we don't advertise. He does a lot with the county councils and things like that. But he also works with other professionals because we generate paper, or certainly historically have done, accountants, solicitors, estate agents. So there's some of his clients. I asked for a tour of his factory.
Yep.
And looked at his machinery and how it works and everything else like that, and then who his suppliers were. So he then started on about various things and talk about he wants a new software system because ironically, his office was just full of paper. And I said, well, if you're going to get a new piece of software, is your accounting software right? And we were talking about all of that. He's with was with another firm of local accountants. And I said, oh, did you pick them? And he went, well, I just sort of inherited them. He said, the previous owner had it. They came in to say the company's shutting down. He said, 2 days later, I bought it or took it over. And I've just been with them. He said, I want more. I want advice. I want help. I support. And I said, your son works in the business because his son also has some shares. I said, is he going to take over? Is your plan, this guy's early 50s. I said, is your plan to retire? And he said, yeah, I want to hand over to him and bring him into the business, but I'm not sure he's ready. And I said, well, he might be ready, but has he got the support? I said, if you're out there working and he's out there working, who's mentoring or whatever? I said, is it a case if you just hand it over and you retire on your pension, or do you want something out of the business? And he said, no, I don't want something out of the business. I said, right, we can structure that. So again, it was all this looking where he wants to be, rather than anything to do with accounts. And he said, oh, I suppose you want to look at some accounts, do you? It gives me a little bit of an interest in what you're doing, but it's more about where you're going because we've just had 12 months of pandemic. So I would imagine that your figures may look far different. And I was looking at it. So I looked at them. I said, all right, you've got this. I said, you don't pay your accountant very much. And he went, no, we don't get very much either. I said, but to be honest, I'm not really bothered what you pay them because, you're only getting a certain service and you're obviously wanting more. I said, why haven't you asked them for these other things? He said, because I don't think they can do it.
I don't think they can do it. Okay.
Right. No, he's never asked them.
No.
So they're providing a compliance service. Take the Sage back up, process it, give him a set of accounts, here's your tax bill, nothing more. He's never asked for more. They've never asked him if he wants more, but he's decided he doesn't believe they can do it. Okay. But you're telling me all this as though you perceive I can. Same sort of thing. And his bookkeeper was there. She was providing some information, but was a bit more hesitant. And I'm thinking, could it be she's linked to the other accountant a bit more and deals with it more and is, so I thought, well, we'll have to take that into account. So I said, right, I'll go away and I'll put together a proposal. And I looked at it and thought, right, at the moment he's paying £1,000 a year or something like that. I thought, I think he needs a lot more help. And, the £1,000 for a set of accounts is irrelevant. It's what you're going to do on a monthly basis and the software he needs and how to grow and how to bring his son into it with a proper system. Because it sounded a little bit as though everybody was doing a bit, but it wasn't joined up. So there was needed. So I put together a proposal, which was a one-off fee to do what will be his current accounts, because obviously we'd just be taking that over. Then a monthly proposal for his new year, implementing the new software system, training on the software system, and again, breaking it down into each section about, I think you need this and why this will help your staff. I went through all of this and I was looking at the pricing and going, I'm going to go for this. So I put the price at 4 times what he was currently paying, which was probably also 2.5, 3 times more than I would have normally just quoted for if I was not thinking with this mindset.
Sure.
And then I did the one thing that you told me off for, which was I emailed it to him. right? I had two days thinking, has he got it? How do I chase it? What am I doing? I'd lost control.
Yeah.
I hadn't arranged the meeting to go up and discuss it. All he then sees is the price, because I can't communicate anything more than those basic words of this and this and this. Anyway, I got an email back which said, thanks for your quote. Just a few questions. And just replied, can I come and see you on Friday? And I'll go through them to get control back here. So I went up. His bookkeeper was worried that she was going to be pushed out if we were bringing in this fancy new system. And so I spent the next 20 minutes talking to the bookkeeper going, actually, you're going to be even more important because he's running the company. His son's potentially going to be running the company, but he doesn't have all the data. You're actually key because you make all this work and bring it together. Your job's actually more secure. It was interesting because when he first sent the email through to me, my first thought was, it's the price. He's gone massive. I've gone way up and it's the price. When I was sat there talking to him, the price didn't bother him.
Right.
The price was not the issue. He was almost ready to say yes straight away, but he was concerned that his bookkeeper was going to be reluctant or pushed out or anything else like that.
Okay.
And I said, no, well, my staff will work with your staff because you need to tell us what you want and how we're doing it, and go forward on this basis. So that meeting lasted 4 hours in the end.
Okay.
Right? Not because of we were discussing the proposal. We were just talking about him and what he wants and everything. We went back onto that. And at the end of it, he said, well, yeah, we'll go with that on the price that I'd put, including I'd put in training for the software at quite a high level, because in the past, we said, oh, we'll set you up some software and we'll show you how to use it. And then you realize you're 600 quid into it and think, I never told them this is going to be a bit of a shock. So I said, I think you're going to need 2 days training spread over this, and then ad hoc ones later on, which would be on a per hour basis if required, and broke it all down so that they could see what they're getting and why.
Yes.
But also allow them to investigate those things and say, well, if there's anything more, we can add that on.